am Ruth Farmer, and I am here to talk to you about computer science for all, and that is the last slide. That's supposed to get me. Okay. So about making a movement. So Andrew and Dorothy, thank you so much for inviting me. They kind of asked me because the computer science for all movement is a big thing. Everybody's talking about it. Coding is a thing. And it's funny for me because when I started doing this work and I would fly a lot and I'd talk to people on airplanes, I was like, oh, I'm working on women and girls in computer science and engineering. And invariably, the man next to me on the airplane would make a habit of counting how many people are in first class and what their gender is. And it's almost all men. And I'm only in first class because I fly so much. But so I always they'd ask me what I do, and I tell them, and they'd be like, oh, well, my daughter uses her phone all the time. Hence computer science, or my wife doesn't like technology, so women, they don't like this. So lots and lots of trouble. But I wanted to say something. So this is who I am. I work for csworld.org, which is an organization I'll talk about later. And I spend my time as a professional feminist rabble-rouser for diversity and inclusion in tech and engineering. I've been doing this since 2001 when I first started working at the Girl Scouts. And unlike most everybody else that in my universe, I do not have a degree in computer science, I don't have a degree in engineering, I don't even have a degree in education. I have a degree in communications and German. But I think that's really important because it actually takes all of us to get this job done. It takes the marketing people, it takes the evangelists, and it takes the researchers and the scientists and everybody. So I'm really happy that the community has welcomed me so much. So I see myself as sort of CS adjacent, not actually being an engineer. Some of my girls have taught me how to code. I've written a few things in Alice and Scratch, but I find I'm more effective manufacturing software engineers than being one myself. So I love that you're doing Rosie the Riveter, so I had to add in that my grandmother was a Rosie the Riveter. She worked at the Alcoa aluminum plant in Tennessee, and in World War II, she was a welder, she was an electrician. She was a strapping 5'10" young woman. So I'm cut from very good cloth, and there she is at 86 years old, going down the Alpine slide at Gatlinburg. And it was funny because as she's getting off with her, and we brought her walker, we carried it down on the chairlift and brought her walker. I can't take that. I was like, she just did it. So shamed him. So if you haven't heard that coding is the new thing, you are living under a rock. Coding, computer science, everyone's got to do this. It's so awesome. 6-year-olds can code. I did that Google search last night, computer science, boom, 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 salaries, jobs, opportunities. Everybody is talking about this. I love some of the things Kip ended with on this, like jobs and all that, and I'll talk about that because anything a child is doing right now in first grade with block-based coding is not preparing them for a job that exists, right? So it's not about the jobs, and I'll tell you why. But everybody's talking about it. It's a big deal. We're even in Teen Vogue. Look how happy those girls are. They're probably happy during a photo shoot with Carly Kloss, but Teen Vogue, just last month, there was another Teen Vogue article about coding. We were on The Daily Show, not once, but twice. There was an entire week of AI on The Daily Show. Like 5 years ago, nobody knew what this was. And we're moving there, but even like schools don't have a definition of computer science quite yet. They don't really have a common definition. We're still battling this lack of understanding on the part of educators of like, no, teaching Microsoft Word is not computer science. And that's just a learning curve because the education system moves pretty slow. But computer science is the thing du jour. Coding toys. I love Google searches because you do a Google search and it's like a snapshot of what's happening. And I was thinking last night, whoever was here at Google, if you guys could add like a thing, you could just like time warp. I want to go back to 1991 and what was the search then, right? Or I want to go back to 2005, what would have come up then? And I think there are web archives like that. But amazing, like the difference between if you were to type in girls in technology or girls in computer science. 3 years ago, you get mostly almost porn, and then now you actually get like things about girls in computer science. And I talk a lot about girls because I spent like most of my career focusing on gender. So now 9 out of 10 parents say they want their children to study computer science. Like, seriously, 5 years ago, parents thought their children were studying computer science because they had iPads at their schools, right? So things have changed dramatically in that area, even to the point of we now have upper line baby. While other babies will be playing with blocks, yours will be playing with blockchain. Now, this is actually an April Fool's joke that Upper Line Code put out in the video is epic. And they're all like, 1Zs and zeros. So I highly recommend the video. It came out on April 1st, and I was just like, we've gone so far, and it's really funny because he's got his baby, and they're just like, now do the HTML. So, coding is a thing now, right? It's a thing. And it was a thing in 1983. I have not changed a lot, but computers have. So you might remember, how many of you were actually in school at a cognitive level in 1983? Okay, so I was 13, so I was in 7th, 8th grade. And I remember our sort of printing shoppy AV teacher got an Apple IIe. And set it up, and kids could come in at lunch, and we would make banners. We would print banners on dot matrix printers and assemble them. And it was really exciting, and you could write little tiny programs. My boyfriend wrote a program that like put my name inside a heart made of X's, you know. And in 1983, the only thing you could do with a computer in a school was programming. There wasn't any software. So all the software that came in, you know, before that was mainframe software for enterprise and stuff. So they made these personal computers, they gave them to the schools, got them in the schools, and we were programming them. And then ed tech happened. And suddenly everybody's building tools to help you learn with technology, not to help you learn technology. So we lost sight as a society of computer science because the computers were there, but the science wasn't. And we were spending all our energy teaching with computers, not teaching computers. So about 2004 or 5, they started to sound the alarm. That's the data on graduation from Research One universities. So this is places like Stanford and Berkeley, any R1 school. That's graduates, undergraduates started to plummet. And then you can see the top dot-com bust is there, right? So the dot-com boom, the dot-com bust, and it just started to plummet. So these universities started to get worried, like, what's going on? Why are no students taking computer science? They were starting to fold computer science departments into math departments and engineering departments and have less staff. So they didn't have enough students. And the gender had crashed. We had gone from 35% female computer science majors in the mid-80s. It dropped as low as 11% in some places. And it's not back up. It's still hovering around 20%. Some schools, they'll talk about their freshman class being 40% or 50%, but let's talk about the graduating class because that's really the number. So then people started to freak out at the college level. What do we need to do? What do we need to do to get more and more students into computer science and studying this at the college level? And then we started to think about the K-12, like what's coming in, what's the input. So for me, my big aha moment on computer science education, I was working on this issue of girls. And I realized that, and many people, it wasn't just me, realized that if girls can't take computer science in high school, we can't get them to succeed in college because they have to show up prepared. And that's true for all students. And so I sent out a survey to a bunch of students that I was working with, mostly high school girls, and I said, are you taking AP Computer Science? Would you take it if you could? What's the situation in your school? And this girl in Massachusetts wrote back and said, I'm hoping to get to take computer science. I'm petitioning my principal to allow me to sit alone in the classroom every day and work on it by myself. And for me, that just like hit me, and I was like, so you're going to succeed in spite of us, not because of us. You're not becoming successful in this field because of what the education system is providing. You're actually having to fight. And so if the only students who are going to get here are the ones who have the presence of mind at 16 to petition their high school to allow them to sit alone and do something by themselves, we're not growing the pipeline, and we're certainly not being equitable about who belongs here. So that was a big aha moment for me. So alarm sounds, 2005, 2006. We start building evidence and support. So big report running on MD in 2010 that really like mapped the whole landscape. The Computer Science Education Act was introduced the first time, it still hasn't passed, in 2011. Launched Computer Science Education Week 2010. I was chair in 2012. So there was just starting to build this momentum and get like a community going. Meanwhile, the NSF was investing a ton of money in developing resources. So there was a new fund called Broadening Participation in Computing. And they were doing tests, like give me a demonstration grant, what could work, what works out of school, what works in school. So this is not even a fraction, a tiny, tiny fraction of all the things that NSF invested in over more than a decade. The biggest probably be the APCS course. So one of the things we realized was part of the reason that we don't have students coming into college prepared to take computer science is because they don't have computer science courses at their schools. So like what courses do we know? What do college-going kids do? Like they take AP classes. So in around 2007, the College Board was going to cancel the second, there was AP Computer Science A and AP Computer Science B. They had canceled AP B, and they were just going to not have it. So NSF said, what if we had a different course? And we'll pay to develop it. And people think you can make a new AP course in a year. You can't. You can make a new AP course in about 9 years. It is a very long process. And I'm happy to say that the APCSP course launch was the biggest launch of a course in history. And the numbers are fantastic, but there's still 1/5 of the numbers of kids that take AP biology. And that really just speaks to availability, right? So that means we need to make the course available. And why are we focusing on APCS? It's because AP is a thing we can count. And so that's one of the big challenges is there is not national data being collected on availability of computer science in the schools because it's not been required and it hasn't been in the standards, and so they're not counting it. And I'll talk more about that. So lots of organizations were developed. Curriculum was built, lots of stuff going on, both focused on computer science in the schools, but also out of school time. And then we went mainstream, we went big. So after lots and lots of advocacy by a lot of organizations, including National Center for Women IT, and Code.org, and ACM, and many others, the White House went big in 2016 with an announcement of the Computer Science for All initiative. And people, asked me about that, like, why would you announce that in the last year of the administration? Why not something else? It's like, because computer science education has so much momentum in the community. Of course, you're going to give an uplift to something that's got momentum and it's going to take off. So President Obama in January 2016, you might remember it. I know I called into the phone call from a corner of a lobby of a hotel in Puerto Rico trying to get enough Wi-Fi to be able to hear the phone call. There was a $4 billion request to Congress for funding for computer science education. They took $135 million of existing federal money and directed that to computer science from NSF, from the Corporation for National Service, from the Department of Defense and other places where they could find money. There was over the course of 2016 about $400 million in investment from the industry partners. Apple had their $100 million Connect Ed initiative. Oracle put a ton of money into training new teachers, so lots and lots of inputs from industry. And then I'm happy to say that over the course of 2016, 550 different community organizations stepped up to make commitments as part of the White House initiative. And
that was huge, because at the start of the year, it was about 50 organizations. And so my goal as a policy advisor was, I want to grow this table, I want this movement to be bigger, I want more people to feel like they belong here. So we had this summit on Computer Science for All, and it was live streamed, and apparently on Twitch, there were 170,000 viewers on Twitch. Like, crazy. Twitch is awesome, by the way. And we had all these organizations from all over the nation. We had people watching on the live stream, you know, we were getting tons of participation around the country, and lots of community feeling and growth and movement. And I personally made it my goal to give equal value to things that had huge dollar signs on them as things that didn't, because I feel like it's actually a huge long tail of individual actors and people that get this done, and so no effort is too small to be important to the movement. And so I know everybody likes to talk about the big scale things, but I had this panel last year that we hosted on rural education, and it was 4 organizations working in Texas and North Carolina and New Mexico and Virginia, and one person said, we can't put out big numbers when we talk about rural education, but we can serve 100% of the kids in that community, which is a big deal. So we start really being successful. We're demonstrating huge growth. This is the growth in AP Computer Science. That's both APA and CSP. So for really from 2006 to 2011, about 20,000 kids in the whole country took AP Computer Science. And meanwhile, 500,000 kids are taking AP Biology, 400,000 kids are taking AP Calculus, right? So like, and half of those 400,000 kids taking AP Calculus are girls. There's no shortage of smart girls that can do math that could do this, right? Yay! So, we launched APCS principles in 2016 and doubled from 50,000 to 105,000 in 1 year. And the numbers aren't quite out yet for this year, but it's huge growth. I personally experienced the growth in my airline status. And you can see that in 2008, I was Premier Silver. Now in 2018, I'm running 3 years as a 1K. And if there's anyone from United listening, I think a donation of global service status for those of us in the nonprofit world. And so then we had to make the transition, right? So I came into the White House initiative knowing there was an election ahead. And so we did a lot of work, and I know the making community did this too, to make sure that the work that we had done had a legacy and moved on. And so we launched this CS for All organization, launched at that summit in September of 2016. We had our first CS for All summit in October 2018. NSF continues to have a CS for All grant program. I heard that recently the Interagency Working Group for CS for All had a meeting, right? So these things are still happening. The Department of Education under the Trump administration has allocated $200 million for STEM education with an emphasis on CS. There's about $300 million that has been pledged from industry to match that. There's this coalition of governors, the Congressional Act Challenge is taking off, so there's lots going on with policy and advocacy. And then all these states are having their own CS for All summits. I'm keynoting 2 of them this month. There's one going on next week in Arizona. Like it's at a fast clip. Everybody's realizing that they need to step up and build what I would call their like Ocean's 11 of community partners that is going to make computer science work in their community. And I think that the making community is part of that. So we launched an organization and we support local change, we strengthen implementation, we work on rigor and research, and we grow the movement. So I like to say, we invite everyone to the table and we make the table bigger. This is such an enormous job to do. There's no like room for me, not you, right? This is me plus you and all your friends. We have got to get this done in a pretty short time from an economic perspective, from an opportunity perspective, and not because of the jobs, but I'll talk about that in a second. So we have a membership model, we've got 200 content providers, but mostly I like to say if a social movement would have an office, we're like the office, right? So if you need help, you call us, we can meet. There's 10 people that live 5 blocks from you doing the same thing, let's talk. And so we spend a lot of time making connections and helping people on-ramp quickly, learn from each other. We don't have to keep having the same learning curve, connecting people to resources. And we have this big summit. On social media, there's about 200,000 impressions on the CS4All hashtag every 6 hours. And that's not our hashtag, that's the movement's hashtag. The movement is hashtag CS4All. We are the organization CS4All. We have a publication called CS4All Stories. If any of you are interested in writing for that publication, we invite guest authors. So we spend a lot of time on building the movement and helping people connect. We also have a ton of fun doing it. And really invite everyone to this table. We have an annual summit. Our next one is going to be in Detroit, and we'd love to see lots of the maker community participating in that event, making commitments and being partners. So nothing makes me more excited than the idea of nation makers and CS4All being friends and partners. And at the recent Crossroads conference, Sophia Sanchez-Mayes, who was the closing keynote, who was a sophomore at Yale, said, "Why are we talking about CS and making? CS is making. Just because you're not making a tangible physical thing doesn't mean you're not making something. You're creating something." And one of the things that I think is critical, and it's not about jobs, right? So back when I was 13 and we all were just programming the computers, you could spend a little bit of time learning and make something totally new that no one's ever seen, and it was yours. And it was that aha moment of I made, I created something. And then we created all this software, and everything got super fast and shiny, and for a kid to get there, to that moment of I made something that looks comparable to what's on my phone or on my computer is a long stretch. And I think what making does is it makes that moment more accessible. I built something, I solved something, I made something, and I own it, and it's mine. And I think that intersection, and also we know that some kids love to learn physically and have physical things. We know some kids love robots, and we know some kids love to make designs and graphic things. I mean, making and CS absolutely need to be dating or hanging out at minimum. We could talk about it. We could define a relationship later, but I think that there is no separation here, really. And as the movement for computer science education is growing around the nation, I really want to invite all of you to be part of it and make sure that you're connected to the people in your community working on this challenge. So I'll just give you a case study. This is, there we go. Go forward. This is Zyla. Zyla is a maker, a pilot, a musician, a beauty queen. She has a YouTube channel, and she just graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering. She has a startup, and she recently taught 150 girls how to solder while wearing a crown and a sash. She is like all of those things. She won Miss Cleveland playing a Tesla coil. There's a video of this. There's a video. She's running for Miss Ohio right now, so I have high hopes, because if she ends up winning Miss America, then she could be like the platform of maker, CS, and everything I ever wanted, entrepreneurship, innovation, all of it together. And she's got a YouTube channel called Beauty in the Bowl, where she's teaching soldering and laser cutting and all kinds of things. Just don't look at the comments. And the inclusion problem in this space is enormous. So the comments are, well, she's just a pretty face, she's not really making anything. She's just there for the camera, or she's hot and I want to date her. It gets worse, right? So she asked me, she's like, how can I get more female viewers so we can tone this down, and also I want it to be safe for girls to watch my channel. And I was like, well, can you turn off the comments? And she's like, no, because then YouTube downgrades you and you don't show up in search results. So, save comments and search results, that's a thing we could work on. Google. About computer science, not because of jobs. I'm excited about making, not because of jobs. I'm excited about all young people having every possible door open to them. And that means you deserve to have the education opportunities that show you all the doors. And if we have to show you that door with a physical making activity with an Arduino, or we have to show you that door with programming in an app, but everyone needs to know that the door is there and be able to make an educated choice. And recently I interviewed Ursula Burns from Xerox, and somebody in the audience asked, are kids getting the skills from school today to work at Xerox? She's like, no. She's like, back in my day, companies hired people and trained them. And so I don't think this is about jobs. I get it, people want to fill jobs, and that resonates with policymakers. I think this is about opportunity, it's about creating the conditions for innovation. And I frankly don't want to live in a world where all the technology we use is created by a tiny fraction of the people, right? The world will be way more awesome when everybody's making it. So 4 little bits of advice for you as a movement. You have everything you need already in this room to be an exponentially bigger movement. You have a community of amazing people doing amazing stuff, right? You're connecting that community. One thing you've got to do is measure. You've got to have metrics and measurement. You have to map this, because if you do not count it, it doesn't count. That means, where are the people with disabilities? Where are the people of color? Where are the low-income kids? Like, you need to start measuring and tracking those things. We were totally blind to what was going on until that, statistics started to scare us. It was going on for many years before that happened. You need to make some noise. Fortunately, you've got some really high-profile people, like Adam and Dale and many others that are doing this work. So make a lot of noise, lots of shouting and champions. It was obviously awesome having a lot to talk about computer science education. It made a lot of noise for us. But find your champions and make noise. And then I really, and I love what we heard yesterday and the examples we saw yesterday, got to grow the table. 52% of the children in America are Black and Latino and other minorities, right? You've got to grow this table. And that means including everybody and finding ways to be inclusive. And so, if you don't know what it is, BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. If it wasn't hard, it would be worth doing. All the great stuff that gets done in this world is hard. And so I encourage you to, next time you come here, bring a friend. Next time you come to anything, bring a friend or two to the conversation, to the social media conversation, to introductions, and just make that your habit. And then finally, you can always call me. My email is available. You can just Google Ruthe and Girl. You'll find me online. We are having the CS for All Summit in Detroit in October. I would love to see a ton of commitments coming from the maker community about how you're going to engage with your local CS education pipeline and support that and make the schools better. And thank you very much.